The silent connection. The grand marble atrium of the Ethelred Corporation wasn't just a space. It was a statement, and today its statement was one of cold, intimidating indifference. Leo's mop moved in slow, weary circles, pushing gray water across the vast, veined floor. At 24, he was the youngest janitor on staff, a poet with calloused hands, his dreams of art school buried under a mountain of his father's medical bills. He moved through the world of the elite as a ghost, seen only when someone needed a spill cleaned or a trash can emptied. He was part of the scenery, polished and invisible. His rhythmic swishing was the only sound until he saw her. She stood in the center of the lobby, a splash of vibrant color in a sea of gray and steel. A woman in a deep emerald dress, her posture straight yet not rigid, her eyes a startling shade of hazel, scanning the directory with a growing look of desperation. A security guard, his face a mask of bored impatience, was speaking to her, his voice a low, indistinct rumble from where Leo stood. "Ma'am, I've told you. Mr. Sterling's office is on the 42nd floor. You need an appointment. You can't just go up." The woman didn't turn. She didn't react. She simply continued to stare at the directory, her knuckles white as she clenched the strap of her leather bag. A cold realization dawned on Leo. She can't hear him. He watched as the guard, growing frustrated, reached out to tap her shoulder. She flinched at the touch, spinning around. Her hands flew up, a flurry of graceful, frantic motion. Sign language. The guard's expression shifted from impatience to bewildered annoyance. "I don't understand that. You need to leave." Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. He shouldn't get involved. It wasn't his place. He could lose his job for overstepping. But the look on her face, a mixture of profound frustration and lonely defiance, unlocked something in him. His younger sister was deaf. He'd learned ASL for her, a secret language that had become their private world. Dropping his mop handle with a clatter that echoed in the cavernous space, he walked over, his work boots squeaking on the wet floor. "Excuse me?" "Sir," Leo said, his voice softer than he intended. The guard glared at him. "I can help." He turned to the woman, his own hands feeling clumsy and rusty as he formed the signs. The change in her was instantaneous. The tension in her shoulders melted away, and her eyes, wide with relief, locked onto his. They were the color of a forest after rain, and in their depths he saw a flicker of a soul as out of place as his own. She signed, her movements fluid and elegant. They told me to come to the main lobby, but no one is here for me. Alistair Croft, the head of international acquisitions. A man so high up the corporate ladder he might as well have been on another planet. Leo nodded, turning to the guard. "She has a 10 o'clock with Mr. Croft. Her interpreter didn't show up." The guard radioed upstairs, his tone skeptical. After a moment, he grunted. "Croft's assistant says they have no record of an Alara Vance today. She needs to leave." Alara watched the exchange, reading the dismissal on the guard's face. Her hope crumbled, and a single tear traced a path down her cheek before she could stop it. It was a silent shard of glass that pierced Leo's heart. She signed to him, her movements now small and defeated. "I'll go," but Leo couldn't let her. Not like this, not after seeing that tear. He signed, his decision made. "There is a cafe on the sublevel. I will buy you a coffee. We can figure this out." He was risking everything, his job, his meager income, for a stranger. But she wasn't a stranger anymore. She was Alara. High above, shrouded in the shadows of the executive balcony that overlooked the lobby, a man stood perfectly still. Alistair Croft, billionaire CEO of Ethelred, had been watching the entire scene unfold. He'd come up for a moment of quiet, to look down upon the empire he'd built, when the flash of emerald and the unusual interaction had caught his eye. He saw the janitor, his janitor, not with a mop, but with his hands speaking a language of grace and silence. He saw the young woman's despair transform into connection. He saw the tear. And he saw the janitor's simple, brave act of kindness. A strange, forgotten feeling stirred in Alistair's chest. In his world, every action had a price, every kindness an agenda. What he was witnessing was pure. It was a transaction of the human spirit, and he was both captivated and unnerved. He pressed a button on his intercom. "Margaret," he said, his voice a low gravel, "cancel my next meeting, and bring me the personnel file for the young janitor currently in the main lobby." His name is Leo. In the quiet cafe over steaming cups of coffee, a world opened up. Ilara signed. Leo replied, meaning every word. I understand a little of how it feels to be unseen. They talked for an hour. She was an artist, a sculptor who worked with reclaimed metal and stone. She was here to pitch a public art installation for the corporation's new plaza, a project she'd fought for months to secure. He told her about his paintings, stashed away in his tiny apartment, about the colors he saw in the gray city, about the father he was trying to save. She signed, a soft smile touching her lips. In that hour, the noisy world fell away. There was no clatter of dishes, no hum of the ventilation system. There was only the silent poetry of their hands, the conversation flowing between them as naturally as breath. He felt seen, truly seen for the first time in years, and in her eyes he saw a reflection of that same feeling. Eventually she looked at the time, her smile fading. My chance is lost, but meeting you, it was a gift. He walked her back to the lobby, his heart a heavy weight in his chest. He didn't want this to be the end. As they reached the towering glass doors, he mustered all his courage. He signed, his hands trembling slightly. Her smile returned, brilliant and warm. She quickly wrote her number on a napkin and pressed it into his hand. Her fingers lingered on his for a moment, a silent promise. Then she was gone, a flash of green disappearing into the sunlight. Leo stood there, the napkin feeling like a treasure map in his palm. He turned, a new lightness in his step, ready to face his mop and bucket, to return to his invisible life, now holding a secret, beautiful hope. And that's when he saw him. Alistair Croft was standing by his abandoned cleaning cart, holding Leo's weathered, paint-stained sketchbook. He must have left it in his janitorial closet, which was now open. The CEO's face was unreadable. Leo, Alistair's voice cut through the silence, cold and precise. That was a very noble gesture. Leo's blood ran cold. Sir, I can explain. There's no need, Alistair interrupted, his eyes the same startling hazel as Ilara's boring into him. He closed the sketchbook with a soft thud. I know my daughter has a tender heart. She's always been drawn to broken things, to projects. The word projects hit Leo like a physical blow. The hope in his chest curdled into ice. Your daughter? Leo whispered, the world tilting on its axis. Yes, Alistair said, a faint, cruel smile playing on his lips. Ilara, she's a brilliant artist but tragically naive. She believes in authentic connection. It's a charming flaw I've had to manage since the accident that took her hearing. He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. And you, Leo, are not part of her installation. You are the discarded scrap metal. He dropped the sketchbook into the gray, murky water of Leo's mop bucket, the pages filled with dreams and colors soaked through, the ink bleeding into nothingness. You're fired, Alistair said, his tone final. If you ever contact her again, I will ensure you never work in this city again. And your father's medical debt? I'll buy it and call it due. Do you understand? Leo stood paralyzed, watching his dreams dissolve in dirty water. The beautiful silent connection he'd felt, the look in Ilara's eyes, had it all been a lie? Or was it just a moment of charity she'd offered, unaware her father was watching? The billionaire hadn't been observing a romance. He'd been quality testing a narrative, and Leo had failed the plot. He looked from his ruined sketchbook to the napkin still clutched in his hand, Ilara's number now a taunting mockery. The twist wasn't that the CEO had seen him. It was why he had been watching, and the devastating truth that the most heartbreaking goodbyes are the ones you have to live through, completely, utterly, alone.